That's because Bobby pushed me in the snow.
What's because Bubby pushed you in the snow?
That's why I'm all goofy.
All right, y'all. So welcome back to Keeping Up with the Dyers. As promised, I am doing a garden planning video today. I've already filmed this video once and I didn't smile the whole time. And I was editing the video to put out, and finally Maddie said, "Mom, you don't smile if Dad's not in the video." And I said, "Oh my gosh, I look so grumpy in this video." So I have decided to re-record it and to be sitting outside in my happy place. And so here I am talking with you about our garden update. I'm here, we're gonna talk about planting our garden. As you can see, it's obviously time to start plants, right? We just have, a little bit of snow sitting here. Actually, we have a couple of feet. And it is the end of February. The best time to plant your garden is in the fall. The second best time is today. So today, we're gonna talk about what our plans are for the garden. We found that it is best to begin with the end in mind. So what does that mean? That means, what do we actually eat? What do we want to do with the stuff that comes out of the garden? What kind of stuff do I always buy at the grocery store that I could totally be growing here or getting from a local producer? We have a fabulous greenhouse in town and they put out some amazing peaches. They also, our first year here, because I had no garden whatsoever, corn, green beans, tomatoes, pickling cucumbers, blueberries, peaches, and apples. Like, that was pretty much everything I needed. They had it. They had either grown it themselves or they had other people within a relatively close area who were growing it and they brought it in. That's an amazing way to begin with the end in mind. Like, if you don't have the space to do any of this, maybe you can start researching local growers in your area. Where's the closest apple orchard? Where's the closest you pick place? So for us, I said, that was our first year when I had no land to garden in up here in upstate New York. I found a local greenhouse and I contacted them. I said, "Hey, I really want to preserve this food. When is it in season here? Because it's going to be the best price when it's coming in like crazy on the vines. And can you provide me with the volume that I want?" And they were happy to oblige me. And I'm sure your local greenhouse will do the same for you. The next step, since we're here now and we have purchased a place and we have land that we can dig in, we decided, you know what, instead of buying all of that from our local greenhouse, what could we grow? The items that I wanted to grow for ourselves were tomatoes, so I could can them, pickling cucumbers, so we could make pickles, green beans, because we eat a lot of green beans, and broccoli. Now, broccoli and green beans, I didn't want to can those, I wanted to freeze them, so that was another step with the end in mind. I had to have room in the freezer for those, and then for the tomatoes and the pickles, I had to have jars to put them in and the ability to preserve them. If I'm speaking a foreign language to you and you're like, what are you talking about? Start researching and finding out, what does it take to save tomatoes all year long? You can stick tomatoes in the freezer, but it takes a whole lot more space in a freezer to freeze all the tomatoes we need for a year than to spend a couple of days in the fall. For me, because I had the capability and the infrastructure, so I had like a canner, a water bath canner. I had the ability to heat the water and I had the jars to do it in, so I canned ours for this year. Several years ago, I did just stick them in the freezer because I was intimidated by canning, and I had more space in the freezer than I had confidence in my ability to safely can food for our family. I canned our tomatoes this year. I froze green beans and broccoli. And when I say I mean all of us. It's a family adventure here. The kids are out in the garden just as much as I am. Avery's out here just as much as he can be, and everybody participates, whether it's helping with cleaning and prepping the food, or if it's picking it in the garden, or if it's keeping little siblings occupied while mom and somebody else does the dangerous hot work or whatever. It's a family affair for us, and we like it that way. Begin with the end in mind. What do you eat, and can you grow that at home? Once you have that figured out, then we think, okay, so if I want to grow tomatoes, what kind of tomatoes do I want to grow? What kind go in cans? Any tomato can go in a can. There are varieties that have less seeds and they're less watery. Last year I grew every tomato that I thought was pretty. This year, having done all that canning last year and thinking, you know what, I don't like that there's seeds in all these jars. They're a little bit less attractive than the tomatoes that I bought at the grocery store. So this year I'm going to grow a San Marzano and a Roma tomato because those are like perfect canning tomatoes. They are very meaty and they are low in the seed and watery parts, I guess you would say. And so when you quarter them and dice them and chop them all up and stick them in the can, you don't have a ton of seeds to put in there. I know I want to do green beans again. Last year I accidentally planted bush beans, and so this year I paid close attention and I did some research and I considered how long our growing season was. Up here, as you can see, it's pretty snowy. Well, it stays like this for almost 8 months of the year. So I have a shorter growing season than I did when we were in North Carolina. So here I have about 110 days. So I was paying a little bit closer attention when I was picking seeds this year. And I said, what variety of green bean comes to maturity, meaning it's not a seed, it's not a growing plant, but it's ready for me to pick it off the vine and eat it? What green bean does that the fastest? And it turned out bush beans were my best bet. Pole beans that I wanted to grow up the trellis to shade the lettuce last year, those take like 20 days longer. Well, when I only have 100 and some days to play with, those 20 days count quite a bit. So I got the bush beans, and they're gonna go at a different spot in the garden because they're not gonna vine up. And I ordered pickling cucumbers, and I'm gonna put those on my trellis because they will grow up, and their leaves and the pickles, they don't grow as pickles, the cucumbers will hang down off of the vine just fine. It'll keep them off the ground, and it actually is beneficial for the plant to grow on a trellis. So I'm gonna do my pickling cucumbers over top of my lettuce. So I'm thinking, okay, what worked last year? What didn't work last year? What would I change and why? And how? So I considered the length of days it takes to come to maturity. I considered the length of my growing season. I considered where do I want to put it in the garden, and then I ordered my seeds. We have a couple companies that we have ordered from in the past that we would highly recommend. Baker Creek Seeds, So True Seeds, and Peaceful Valley. They're all good seed companies. They have non-GMO, they have organic seed varieties if that is of concern to you, and they have just a lot of varieties. I was able to pick from like 15 different kinds of green beans, and I was able to pick from more tomatoes than I ever knew existed. They've had just really good germination rates, meaning the amount of seeds that actually grow into plants. And so that has been, for all three of those companies, that has been true. I have to show you guys something. This is what happens when you say, you guys go watch a video, mom's gonna film something. The joy of playing outside comes to an end. Ah! So the second half, we have considered the end. What do we actually eat? What do we want to grow? And now we're thinking about growing it. We've ordered our seeds. We have the variety. It fits the amount of time that we have to grow in. If you have no idea how many days you have, how many growing days you have, it's totally information that you can just Google. And then one little trick that I have is I have Clyde's garden planner. I can put my last frost date in for us, that's around May 17th, and I slide this little line to May 17th, Look at that, Clyde, you're pretty handy. And then I look up the variety of plant that I want to grow, and it tells me about when I should be seeding it indoors, planting it outside, and when is the last one that I can plant to expect to harvest it within the amount of growing days that I have. So if all of that is like complete Latin to you and you have no idea what I'm saying, then seeding it indoors. So I'm gonna take the seed and I'm gonna put it in the dirt here in the house so that I can get a jump start on the amount of days I have to grow it outside. So tomatoes kind of take a long time to come in and become ripe and have that beautiful, delicious red tomato. So I'm going to start them in the house, and I don't have to have anything fancy, just some dirt and a tray and time. A south-facing window is a great idea, super helpful, but it's not necessary. So anyway, I have my garden planner. You can have a garden planner. There's probably an online calculator that you could use as well. I like being able to hold things and touch them and see it for myself. So I ordered Clyde's garden planner. It was like $5. Starting it inside, we can get up to like 8 weeks of extra grow time, and that's 8 times 7 is 56. That's like 56 days. That's a lot of time to add to your grow time. Sweet potatoes. So this last year, you may remember that I got some sweet potato slips from our local greenhouse. I planted some out front and some in the garden. Chickens totally destroyed the ones out front and they had no hope. But the ones in the garden produced these beautiful white sweet potatoes. I didn't even realize sweet potatoes came in white, but they do. So starting sweet potatoes, you take your sweet potato, you can cut it in half. This one is really rocking. It's been in my water for about 2 weeks, and we already have some roots going, and maybe you can see up here, we already have some shoots. See my roots? Ooh, pretty roots. And my shoots, yum. Supposedly, at one sweet potato, so I've cut one sweet potato in half, and both of the raw ends are in the water. I'm changing out this water like every 3 days when it starts to get scummy, so that they stay fresh and they keep growing and they don't just get stagnant and nasty. And then I wrote on the sweet potato, I started this on January 30th because the sweet potato doesn't mind, but I'll totally forget. So I also started a yellow sweet potato just like yesterday. So it doesn't have any roots or shoots yet, because my other sweet potato, this was a grocery store sweet potato, it started shriveling up, which is not your ideal sweet potato to grow because it's not its healthiest. And it hasn't done anything. It's been in here just as long as the white sweet potato, who is rooting and shooting and just going bonkers. And we will slip those in the ground outside once we are past the frost date. I think that pretty much covers up garden planning. Remember, the best time to start your garden was totally in the fall. The second best time is today. Start with the end in mind. What do we eat? And then how would I have to preserve it? And then after that, you figure out what variety you want to grow. When's your last frost date? Get it started in the house so it's ready to go outside by that last frost date. Give it a try. And if you have no room to garden, hook up with a local greenhouse. Who's growing food in your area that you could buy in bulk and then preserve? Maybe this year you learn how to preserve food. I think that pretty much wraps it up, and I hope y'all have a blessed day.